Good evening, Jackie. Thank you for having me. I think what's more important is how we see what a group of like-minded, decent nations that come together in the name of defense and despite the diabolical intentions of Iran, we prove together that we can defend lives and save lives. And that is precisely what we did with over 300 explosive drones, cruise missiles, ballistic missiles that were fired at Israel over the course of the night.
But the attack itself was retaliation. It was expected. It was well telegraphed, wasn't it?
Israel has not had a confrontation with Iran since the 1st of April. Israel, and as we've seen throughout the course of the last 6 months, but also for many years, Iran is the source of everything bad in this region. They are the destabilizer of everything. They have empowered Hamas. They have financed, they have trained, they have equipped Hezbollah. They have instructed the Houthis to conduct attacks on the maritime cargo routes. So everything that is happening in this region is to do with Iran. They have been up until now behind the scenes. And yesterday they came to the front of the stage. And I think what the coalition proved in the course of the defense of Israel is that their aggression, their hostility, their attacks cannot be will not be successful and will not be tolerated.
Well, hopefully we'll get to come on to that coalition in a moment. But Iran has said this was in retaliation for the airstrike on the consulate. They said it was always going to be a limited operation. There is no intention of continuing it now. So can this end here?
And at the same time, in the early hours of this morning, Iran's proxy, Hezbollah, launched more rocket attacks against Israel. So I don't trust Iran. I don't see why anybody should. They are the source of everything bad in this region.
So what is your assessment of what happens next then? What is your assessment of what happens next?
The IDF has presented a spectrum of options to the government. The government, as you rightly pointed out in the report, are currently convened and discussing those options. Once they come out, they will give their instructions to the IDF and we will act accordingly. I don't think it's appropriate for me to delve into the specific details. Of course, there is a price for action and a price for inaction.
So there is no question of no retaliation from Israel?
I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what the government decides.
After some weeks of tension between Israel and your key ally, the Americans, the attack has seen President Biden come and reaffirm what he says is his ironclad commitment to Israel. But he's also reported to have said the US won't get involved in any military campaign against Iran. They don't want you to do anything more, do they? They want this to stop here, to not escalate this situation, which would be very damaging for a very wide region, potentially.
We have to also ask ourselves that if we don't do anything, and if Iran can be allowed to get away with launching this most extensive missile, rocket, and drone attack against Israel, and if they think that this is the new norm of the relationship, what price would it be? Will we wake up again once more to a reality of the 7th of October that instead of Hamas terrorists, it will be Iranian activists, fighters, warriors in our houses? So I think there's a strong case for action, but there are also absolutely, I would agree with the concerns of the safety and security of the region. We live here. It is at the top of our concern, but we're not willing to live under the persisting threat that the Iranian regime is conducting against us, either directly or through its proxies.
Very briefly on the issue of coalition, which you raised. We know British planes were involved. We heard the Prime Minister talking about British planes shooting down some of the drones. I mean, how would you assess the risk in countries like Britain being involved in this?
Again, I think that there is more ample reason for being involved in a coalition against a tyranny regime like Iran, the way that they have conducted themselves, how they are conducting their aggression against Israel, but not only against Israel. Iran and the IRCG are hostile across the world. They are conducting malicious activities against civilians, against people around the world. So it's the right thing. And that's why it precisely said a group of decent nations came together to defend against Israel, not only from Europe, not only America, also from the region, because everybody understands that that's the reality.
Peter Lerner, Lieutenant Colonel Peter Lerner, got to leave it there, but thank you very much for talking to us.
Good evening, Jackie.
Now, Israel and